Hello and welcome to our podcast Hearts Histories. In this 5-episode series, I'll be speaking to 6 older and old LGBT plus people who live in Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin, and reflecting on how their lives and experiences have made them the person they are today. This is available in both video and audio, so if you're currently watching and would rather be listening, head to any of the podcast apps and search for Embrace Inclusion to find our channel. Or equally, if you'd rather be watching this series, then our YouTube channel is Embrace Inclusion. Or head to the website lgbtsand.com to find it. So, on to the show. This episode's guest is Helga McCorriskin, who lives in rural Shropshire. She's in her 70s. Helga is a transgender woman and shares how she knew she was different from childhood, but why she decided not to transition until her 60s. We hope you find this episode really insightful and that after listening to the conversation, you'll be able to better understand the older and old LGBT plus people you interact with as part of your work. Welcome to the Hearts and Histories podcast. Helga McCorriskin, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's go back then. Where did you grow up, Helga?
I was born and raised in Birmingham, but my parents were Scottish. They came down to Birmingham just before the Second World War because timing was their strong point. And they raised a family of 4, and I was the youngest by quite a way, 5 years. I wasn't an afterthought, but my mother said, well, it had to be you or a dog that I had. And I'm still not sure whether I won that competition. But
and was it a happy childhood? Was it?
Yes, it was. It was kind of solitary in a sense. I think I had a lot of time to myself because my brother, I had 2 brothers, and one was 5 years older, and my sister was 6 years older. So they were kind of, you know, yourself from being that age. You don't really want a lot to do with the toddler, but I imagine my sister would have done. And certainly I have a very strong relationship with my sister.
What brought you to Shropshire, having grown up in Birmingham?
Oh, gosh. I was married for 30 years. We were invited by this chap who was living and working out here in Minsterley. And he got this old rambling farmhouse, which he was renting. And he just, I think he came for a visit and just said, why don't you come out and live out here? And it was my wife and a close friend who said, yeah, that's a good idea. What do you think? And I said, yeah, well, whatever. And I wasn't really thinking about it. I don't know why, because I've always loved the outdoors. We had to move out because the farmer needed the property and everybody else sort of disappeared to the 4 winds and we were left, we stayed. And so we moved down to Bishop's Castle, and I got a job on the post, and that took me right through till when I retired. But there came a time she wanted to move to the city, because obviously we'd been in Shropshire since 1973. She was desperate to have a career which she couldn't achieve in the rural areas, and I agreed with it. But at the last minute, I decided I just couldn't leave Shropshire, and I couldn't leave my job, and I couldn't work in the city and with everything that went with it. And so we split up in 2000, but we stayed friends all through, but she died in 2015, and that kind of changed my life a bit in a way. She was the first person I told that I was transgender in 2012.
How did she react?
She wasn't surprised, but then 3 years later she just went to bed and didn't wake up. So she was living in Birmingham by that stage, and she was 2 days short of retirement as well, which was a tragedy because she would have cursed her body's sense of timing, I think.
I think so. How did you feel when she passed?
Yeah, totally wiped out. I think it forced me to hurry along with things. I would like to think I would have still transitioned if she'd been alive. I'm pretty sure I would have done, but of course I can't answer that
You
question.
don't know. You don't know. You don't know.
Because we did have separate lives, but the thing is, I mean, she never had another partner, and from that point that I told her back in 2012, I didn't either. I haven't.
So she was the first person you told. When did you know yourself? When did you know?
Oh, well, I knew that's what it was like when I was a child. But then you just get on with things. You don't assume a different reality because it's not something that's open to you. I mean, especially in the 50s and 60s, I would allow my love of femininity to be absorbed by watching just films and people on TV, music, just life in general, you know. And I'd compete against the men playing sport. And so I almost like subverted my aggression through sport, and in a way in which was quite acceptable. I think I probably thought, well, I'm always going to feel this way. But my love for my partner was so great that I was never going to allow it to take me over and damage what we had together. Yeah, it wasn't something that I felt I needed to do. It was just there in my head for me to think about when I wanted to. But then, yes, 2012.
That was the moment. And what changed then in 2012, do you think?
Well, I think probably it was the last partner I had. And I just thought, well, that's another fine mess you've got in Stanley. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I know where this can take me. And then really with Helen dying, it just sort of just confirmed it, you know. Now's the time to get on with it. And I felt as if I'd been edging along a springboard, you know, for those last number of years, all my life probably. But I'd never really looked down at the pool. And I said, no, what this means, you're going to have to walk to the edge of the springboard and you're going to have to dive in. And so that's what I did. And so I went down, initially just down that social route. I used to go clubbing with some friends. I met some people in a trans social event in Wales. Got a lot of friends out of that. And one of them said, oh yeah, these things are great, but you can't dance. There's no dancing and no music. And he said, do you want to come down to Cardiff? So I used to go down to Cardiff 3 or 4 times a year, and we go out clubbing and dancing. And I've always loved music and dance, but I've not always had the opportunity. And so that was great. And we used to go to a caravan site in Somerset and dance our legs off. And it was amazing. And it was like a life's ambition fulfilled. Like a sprung dance floor, loads of space, and I would just throw myself around the room. And this was like from 10 years ago. I was in my 60s. And it was great. It was so liberating. And dressed as a woman as well, because then the expression comes out. You know, it's not meant to be, it's like when you're seeing male and female gymnastics. Obviously, they're totally different because they're responding to their own anatomical skill set. But I was different. I was different for a long time, so my expression was much more feminine. And to have the license to do that was so liberating. I can't explain it. And I knew there was only one way it was going to end. I was going to get on the pathway. I'd met some other people in social groups. There was one in Wolverhampton, so I think still runs actually. And that was different because I went to those meetings in Wolverhampton and like 3/4 of the people there were transitioned. And so I just talked to them, listened to them, look at them, absorb how they were. And it was just so attractive to me, and not in a superficial sense. And I've one good friend in Wellington, still do, and she had transition. And I talked to her a lot about it. And when I decided that I wanted to do it, I asked her if she would look after me for a period post-op, because they won't do the operation unless you've got somebody living with you or at the time. And she was more than happy to do that. And she's been a great comfort throughout. And one of the things she said to me was, and this was like 2 weeks before the op, as your transition settles down, you'll notice a difference in how you feel. And it's not just from the point of view of, I've been waiting to do this, or and I've got past the operation, I can reduce stress levels, I can get on with my life. You will feel different. And I mean, obviously there are biological reasons for that, but nobody really knows how that's going to, how that changing feeling is going to transpire. But she was right. And it was just like a feather falling through the air, sometimes a bit lost, sometimes not knowing where it was going to land, but then it did land, and it knew where it had landed, and it knew it was safe, and it knew it had landed where it wanted to.
So it took a little while, but
Yeah.
then she was right. That feeling was there, and you were like, yes,
It was 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But beyond that, then you just get on with the life you were leading before. And I don't mean in terms of going out, seeing people, whatever. It's just you, the person, getting on with your female life. You are a woman, and that's it. There you are.
And so how have you found that then? Getting on with
It's amazing.
your female life?
It's totally amazing. I'm lucky. I don't know why. Well, I've always thought I was lucky, obviously, until you're not. But in that I just get on with things, and I don't have any negativity about my life. I just feel that the world is with me. I don't worry. I don't walk down the street and worry. I'm a little bit tall. I'm 5'10", so I'm a tall woman. And if there are any things that I think aren't feminine enough, like my feet are too big, or things like that, well, it's great because I can get a pair of shoes to fit me in a woman's shoe shop. I just have to ask. It's only 9 anyway. It's not that big, is it? But no, that is it. That's just the way it is, and I don't worry about that at all. I don't look over my shoulder or anything. And in a sense, that kind of means that I'm not a great representative for someone who might be expected to talk about the pitfalls of the being on the pathway and being transgender, having a transgender history, I should say.
Have you encountered any problems, any discrimination as a result of this?
I think it was during the trans years, because I was still working, I was still playing golf, I was still mixing with people as a man. On the other hand, I wouldn't say I shouted it from the rooftops, but I didn't make any secret of it. I just didn't talk about it. But of course, you will always find those individuals in society who think it's a weakness and like to pick on the weakness and like to make fun out of you. And I just classified them as like pathetic boys behind the bike shed at school, whispering, tittering and everything. And it's strange. I mean, I met some of those people at a funeral for an ex-colleague, someone who was very, very kind to me in the early days of my employment. A lovely chap. But some of these colleagues were those sort of people. And they're still at it, And I'm thinking, poor women, they get castigated. little old women as if they're gossiping. Well, no, I don't see that.
No.
But these blokes were doing it. So, and it was that. There was somebody at the golf club as well who was, and one or two kind of acolytes who would join in. But it's pathetic. These are grown men with careers, with families. And I just said, So
I think you've got a good attitude there with that. It's kind of like, it's their problem.
It is,
So don't worry about it. You mentioned your love of sport. Are you still able to play sport?
Sadly, no. This knee that I referred to stopping me playing football when I was a kid. I've worn the cartilage out, so I had to actually stop playing golf in 2017. If I could click my fingers and have a replacement, but I'd need someone to look after me for a much longer period than just 6 weeks, and I live on my own. I don't have any expectations of putting those responsibilities on anyone else, even if I could.
Does that worry you that you don't have that support network, or do you feel that you wouldn't want to ask for help because you're quite self-reliant, would you say?
I think the self-reliance is there as a sort of backstop, but I know that I've got bridges to cross in life, and I know that the chances are I will be doing it by myself. But if they're medical ones, well, I'll have professional assistance. And I'm too keen to live my time like anyone else, with no barriers, nothing in my way, while I can. When I get to that point, I'll think about it then.
And when it comes to healthcare, are you open with healthcare professionals with having transitioned?
Yeah. It's just normal. This is what it is. Some emotions are useless, and embarrassment is one of them. Embarrassment is the sort of thing where the bottom falls out of your shopping bag when you're in the middle of the supermarket. Having to go around. There's a tin which insists on rolling down the aisle, getting further and further away.
There's always one.
And then when you finally get to it, there's another one going in a different direction. So it's. That's embarrassment. Otherwise, it's a useless emotion.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. So do you have hopes and fears when it comes to getting older? How do you hope your later years are?
We could create some scenarios here, couldn't we? For the sake of argument. In a care home. I'd be the one that brings the guitar down to lunch and plays and sings in front of them, knowing that nobody would be able to get out of their chairs to stop me doing it.
I could sing song.
Yeah. But I think that the thing that I need to be able to get out, I walk every day, but I wouldn't say it's easy. Being outside, looking at nature, being everywhere, sometimes being in a town.
Because you are in quite a rural location, aren't you, in Shropshire?
Well, yes, up a narrow lane, and it's actually the end of the road. The tarmac runs out. But I love where I live. I just love it, and that's the object that I will always love where I live.
Sounds like you've got it all sussed, Helga, would we say?
Well, it'll have to come to an end at some time, and I don't mean, me falling off my perch, but I mean, I won't be able to live there forever because, if I can't look after myself, I'll need someone else to look after me by proxy, if you even. So, yeah, that's okay. I can do that. I'll just have to cope with that and see what the next bend in the road brings.
It's been fascinating talking to you, Helga. Thank you so much for being with us on Hearts and Histories today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Ryan. It's a lovely privilege.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hearts and Histories, brought to you by the Shropshire Rainbow Film Festival and Embrace a Culture of Inclusion. If you haven't already, please check out the other 4 episodes of this series, which are available to watch and listen to. And if you found the content useful, we would love it if you could share it with other individuals and service providers who work with older and old people. If this has inspired you to make your own provision more inclusive to LGBT plus people, then head to lgbtsand.com to see more of our resources. These resources have been split into beginner, intermediate and advanced, and each resource includes an indication of how much time you need in order to get value from it. So whatever stage of the inclusion journey you're on, and however long you've got, these resources can help you to embrace a culture of inclusion.